don't know. Oh.
All right, here we are.
We are here. We are here.
Um,
over here.
Welcome to season 2 of the Vibelytical Show, where I'm Brandon and my brother Andre are here to break some things down for you. Is it 7 o'clock on the dot? Because you know we like
7 on the dot. It is 7
is.
on the dot, friend.
It's Ursher. 7 o'clock on the dot. That's when we start the show. And so we just want to remember to invite you to join the discussion, like, share, and comment. So let's take a second or two to go ahead and share the show, Andre.
Yeah, so like Brandon said, welcome to Vibelytical. We are so happy to start off season 2 with a nice start. Brandon and I have been talking about a topic that we wanted to cover. So being that we've deliberated over what we're going to talk about, as you can see, the title of this episode is Stereotype Threats. This topic really spoke to me on a lot of levels. And I have my wine here. Brandon and I went and got a glass of wine prior, but it looks a little high right now. If you can see how much I got in here, don't judge me.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so Stereotype Threats is one of the topics that really spoke to me on a lot of levels, and I want to share this with you all. What we wanted to do before I even get started is what I wanted to do was have a couple of guests come on, because the way that this format is set up is that we can invite people to come on. So if you want to come on, let us know in the comments, and we will send you the link to get on, and you can show your face on here and chit chat with us for a little bit. So some of our episodes, especially when it comes to topics, we will bring on a guest to get their perspective and hear you and see you, and get your perspective. So I am just excited to get things started. But yeah, the topic today is stereotype threats, and I believe that this will speak to you all. I believe that this will really kind of. I'm hoping that it's educational. I really am. I'm hoping that it's educational, and I'm hoping that you all learn something from this, because I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot about this topic. So let's go ahead and get started. So, have you ever walked into a school or workplace and wondered what the people there thought of you? Like, you just walked into a school, the workplace, the mall, anywhere, and just was like, ooh, I wonder what they think of me. Now, it's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer, but I just want you to think about that question. Have you ever walked into a school or a workplace or anywhere in public and wondered what the people there thought of you? Have you ever had that? Are they judging you because you are a woman? Are they judging you because you're gay? Are they judging you because you may look like an immigrant or be an immigrant? Or because of a disability, or because you're maybe poor, or because you may be elderly? And these are some of the stereotypes that really reign rampant on those areas. Being a woman, being in the LGBT community, there's stereotypes on immigrants, there's stereotypes on folks with disabilities, there are stereotypes on people being poor, and there are stereotypes on elderly. So that's the reason why I wanted to ask those questions to you all, just so you all can kind of think about those questions. So I'm gonna ask them again. Are they judging you because you're a woman? Are they judging you because you may be gay in the LGBT community, maybe an immigrant, disability, being poor, or old age? Has this affected what you say, or whether you speak, or how you act on those things? Has it affected any of those things? And these are all rhetorical. You don't have to answer. And Brandon, if you want to answer, you're more than welcome to answer, interrupt at any time. But I'm just kind of just putting these questions out there for you all to think about stereotypes in society, and especially in today's society.
Okay.
So on the surface, though, you all, we would think that the perceptions or impressions that people have of us only are on our minds, like in our own minds. But our concerns about other people's perceptions are the ones that burrow deep into our minds. So it's not about only what we think about those stereotypes. It's about what we think other folks think about those stereotypes. So I want you all to think about that. So it's not just about what you think, but you could also be thinking about, what does that other person think of me? So what I'm going to discuss is about how our worries about the stereotypes people hold of us can shape everything from examples, and I'm gonna give an example of a parent and teacher conference, to even police shootings. Okay, but I'm gonna and I went from one extreme to the other because I'm gonna kind of cover that within this discussion. So I want to talk about Dr. Claude Steele. So Dr. Claude Steele is a psychologist at Stanford University, right? And he has a story that he shared in reference to his own stereotype threat. Okay, so I'm going to share this story. It's a little bit lengthy, but I want your feedback on this, you all, as you're looking at it. But Claude Steele, at the young age of 7 in the 1950s, now mind you, 1950s, he was in Phoenix, Illinois, and he was walking with his friends from school, right? And one of the older kids made a statement that really cemented into his memory. So in conversation, one of the kids that he was walking with said, "Hey, I'm thinking about going swimming during the summer at the Harvey Park pool." Well, one of the older kids said, "Wait a minute, you can't go swimming there unless it's on a Wednesday afternoon. That is the only time we are allowed to go swimming there." So Claude noticed that statement that kid made wasn't just a regular rule that applied to everybody, but it only applied to them as Black kids. And that really sat with him. He was just like, what the world? Like, that ain't no just regular, like, oh, this restaurant closes at 8 p.m. That means y'all got to go home. This rule was, oh, we can't go to the swimming pool unless it's Wednesdays. That's the only time we can go to this pool is Wednesday afternoon. So after that day that he had that conversation with his friends, he noticed that on Wednesdays, he would only see Black people lined up to go to the pool. So with that, he held a hidden anger about it. So it made him wonder, what do they, white people, think of us? Like, what do they think? Like, what do they think of us that we are literally going to the pool on Wednesdays only? Wednesdays only, right? So he started to wonder what the white people thought of seeing only Black people lined up, right? What kinds of attitudes did they have? Were they empathetic towards us, or were they just indifferent? And what do you think, Brandon? Do you think that some of them could have, this is back in the 1950s now, do you think that they were empathetic towards the fact that they only could go on Wednesdays, or were they just indifferent? Like, it really didn't matter. It didn't really mean much to them.
I think the thing about stereotypes is people can participate or not participate in them, but also sometimes the reason why people participate in them is because they haven't been challenged. So I think, to answer your question, I think there were probably people on both sides. There are probably people who wondered and then were just indifferent and they didn't challenge it. And there's probably also people who did feel that it was wrong and didn't challenge it. And I think the social norms play a huge role in stereotyping and what's acceptable. And I'm sure we're going to get to that later, so I don't want to jump. But
yes, thank you for that answer, Brandon. Yeah, we are going to dig a little bit deep into that.
Yes.
So he started to get answers eventually, right? And realized that it was about how they acted towards him. So that was his answer. It's about how those white individuals acted towards him. So And it wasn't about overtly being discriminatory, but about the covert ways that they looked at him and the other black kids. And as he got older, that conversation about the black kids only going on a Wednesday really just sat with him. So he started observing. He was like, it's not about how I'm overtly being discriminated against, but those covert ways. Because if you think about it, if you really think about it, there wasn't really like this whole overt racism tied to it. It was more covert because at the end of the day, they were still allowed to go. They were still allowed to go to the pool. They just could only go on Wednesdays.
Right.
Is that overtly racist or is that covert? Think about that. Like they were able to go. Oh, y'all can go. Y'all just ain't going on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. You're just gonna go on a Wednesday. That's the only day y'all can have. Is that really overtly racist, or is that covert where, oh, we're not gonna leave you out. You just ain't gonna go on the days you want to go. So I'm gonna move on, keep on moving forward. So at the age of 14, he had some white friends that he grew up with, and they mentioned to him that they applied for a position to be a caddy. Now, do you know what a caddy is, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay, so a caddy is basically a person who carries golfers' clubs and provides assistance during their golf matches. So he went with his brother to apply for a job to be a caddy. So he was excited because he was like, hey, my friends, I have other friends that went and applied for this position, and they are caddies. They are literally caddies at the golf course. So they arrived very early to the golf course to apply, and they were the first to be there. They were the first two individuals to be there. But what they noticed is everyone else that applied, of course, that were white, they got the position and noticed that they were still left there without getting hired. So the way they did it back in the 50s, by the time this is the 60s now, but in the 60s, they call out a number. So you're given a number, and then they call out the number, and then they give you a caddy badge to say, congratulations, you've been hired, and then you get an orientation, and then you start your job. Well, they did not get their number called. So one of the white adults said, and I'm not going to say the actual N-word, but one of the white adults said, you N-word are still here? Y'all still here? We are not giving you a badge. That is exactly what that adult asked those kids. And they were crushed by that, right? They were totally crushed, and they told their parents about it. Well, his dad is black and his mom is white. And they were very active in the civil rights movement. One thing that he could say is that his parents were on the side of optimism and vigor by telling him and his brother that the world was ours and that they have the right to do what they want to do. But there is racism and white supremacy in the world. So the information that they were given as teenagers was that, hey, listen, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve, but just know that there are going to be some roadblocks in the way due to racism and white supremacy. So now let's fast forward to his college years. So in his college years, he attended Ohio State University, and he still had the thought in his mind of, at the age of 7, what do they think of me? Because at the end of the day, from childhood, he felt that he was prejudged based on the color of his skin. He was like, what do these folks think of me? Because I done went from hearing about only Wednesdays having the pools only to black people. Then I get called the N-word at the age of 14 when I'm just trying to apply for a job and I don't get it. So in his mind, he didn't took that to college. Okay. Now he's 18 years old. Like, Lord, what do these people think of me? Right. So he was one of the only couple of black people that was in graduate school at the time. So there were smart grad students and professors that surrounded him, right? Even though he projected confidence on the outside, he felt the total opposite on the inside. And he mentioned how he was like, yeah, I cannot sit here and allow these white people to think that that I am not confident and that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But he was threatened by that. He was threatened by it. So he felt the most closed off in class. He was not talking a lot. He was monitoring how much he said and all that stuff. Like he was very, very calculated on what he said because he didn't want to look like the stereotypical black person. He didn't look like that kind of person. So what I found astonishing was that he mentioned feeling super righteous and felt that people that were running the golf course were racist and morally pathetic and misguided. But in graduate school, it was all about how intelligent you were and you know how your group is seen in society. So where he felt proud in his blackness was when he was younger. But when he went to college, he was like, oh shoot, now I have to worry about how intelligent I appear and how this group of people see me. And he had the crutch of his parents to motivate him as a child. Now he's on his own where he's like, ooh, okay,
Right.
I don't have my mom and dad right next to me to let me know that I can do whatever I want. Now I am faced with the thought of other folks seeing me different than what I actually am. I'm actually smart. I'm actually educated. I actually scored the same SAT scores than my white counterparts. But at the end of the day, I am still being looked at as, oh, that's a black man. So he stated that black people were not seen as being intelligent enough to be in an elite school. That's what he felt with the looks that he received from his white classmates. He mentioned that if he were to slip into the dialect of Chicago, Illinois, that they wouldn't view him as belonging there. They wouldn't. So he had to really work on his dialect because he felt like, oh, any little thing that shows my blackness would separate me from being a part of this elite school. But thinking about it, he's in the elite school. He's there. He is there. I see Shay is watching. Hey, Shay.
Hey, Shay.
So one thing that I noticed is that Claude was able to feel, back to what I said earlier, he was able to feel righteous and strong when it came to individuals that were overtly racist. This overt racism was at the age of 14 when he was called the N-word. It was. But had a bigger fear of how individuals viewed him at college, and that was due to it being more covert racist. Because you're not sure of how they view you, because they're not outwardly calling you the N-word. They're not using disparaging terms. They're not actively discriminating towards you in the public eye, but it could be everything covert. So one thing that he stated was that it was a lot harder to be righteous in college, where because there wasn't any overtly racist behavior when he was in college. But there was overt racist behavior when he was 14 and at the golf course. So the fact of him not knowing, so he stated this with so much conviction, the fact of him not knowing but feeling it was what made things difficult for him. He didn't know for sure if he was experiencing the racism, but he felt it. He felt it in his loins, okay? Like, something is off here. I just don't feel like I'm included. So he stated that it feels ambiguous to be in an environment of uncertainty for the fact that he knows that people around him are aware of the stereotypes that are given to Black people, but he isn't sure if that is affecting every situation that he experiences. So he's not even sure because he's like, well, dang, I'm uncertain on if they are even aware of the stereotypes. I'm uncertain if they are acting on those stereotypes because it's all covert.
Right.
You don't really know. So, and I just thought that was so poignant because it's like, you don't know. You just don't know until you actually have the proof of it. That's why covert racism is a lot harder to depict unless you're really, really paying attention. So once he graduated from Ohio State University, he became a professor, but he noticed something that tied to his upbringing. He noticed that women and Black students who had the same SAT scores with their white counterparts were scoring lower than those white people. So they had the same SAT scores, but when it came to homework assignments, exams, and quizzes, they were scoring lower. So Dr. Steele came up with a study to see if they could generate underperformance of some students in a laboratory setting, right? So what he wanted to focus on was math majors. So anybody getting their math degree, which kudos to folks that want to pursue math because I ain't got time for math. But anyway, he studied math majors and he discovered that men that were in the study were just worrying if they were in the right field or if they were smart enough. For women, they had the men's worry and the stereotype given to them that they are not as smart as men mathematically. So not only did women have the burden of like, am I in the right field? Is this the right thing for me? But they also had the stereotype in their mind of, ooh, well, am I just as smart as men? So they had an additional fear, which caused them to have the lower test scores.
Mm-hmm.
So even though those women were just as good as those men, hence same SAT scores, they still had that additional worry about not being viewed as smart enough to tackle math.
Right.
And I just found that to be so captivating, because I was like, interesting, because they have an additional fear. Not just the fear of being in the right field, but the fear like, ooh, I may not be able to outsmart my male counterpart.
Right.
So with this stereotype being placed on women, this can be called what the title of this episode is called, the stereotype threat. Right. So that is what it's called, a stereotype threat. But with this stereotype placed on women, this can make the stereotype threat true. Think about it. If the professors are seeing that women are scoring lower, then someone can look at the results and be like, see, we knew it. We knew that women are not as smart as men. So it's and that's what is so crazy, because stereotypes are things that are really not considered true. It's a fake reality of someone that's not true. That's what a stereotype really is. A stereotype is basically something that is viewed about someone that is actually not true. But that stereotype, with the results of those women scoring lower, was proof for the professors to say, oh, well, see, look at these scores.
Right.
They're not that smart. So what made the women score the same as men during another study was to inform them that they might have heard that men who take the test score higher, but that is not the case for this particular test. So they told the women, this test is when women do just as good as men. That is what eliminated the stereotype threat pressure, because before they took the test, they went to the women and said, hey, this is not the case for this test. These women, that any woman that took the test prior, they scored just the same. So it eliminated that pressure of, oh, shoot, I may not score as high, or am I even smart enough to score higher?
Right.
So he highlighted that stereotype threats are not only for people of color, because I noticed that throughout this whole conversation that I'm only talking about Black people being stereotyped, right? But it even goes for white people. There are white people out there that get stereotypes put on them when it comes to sports. Think about it. The stereotype is that they are not as athletic as people of color. When it comes to basketball, football, they look at the Black person, because stereotypically a Black person is more athletic, not white people. So it can happen on both sides, because I don't want to just target white people having stereotypes. Black people having stereotypes, and white people also having them placed on them as well.
Let me interject something there. I think that when it comes to stereotypes, I think with all groups of people, there exist stereotypes. And what I was thinking about as you were talking is the power of the stereotype comes in, and it's invisible and not easily identified, but it's there and it's having an impact. And, like covert racism, sometimes it's hard to be aware that it's actually there. But when we can acknowledge it, then we could change our confession. And I'll get to like my thoughts on that a little bit later as we're talking about the spiritual side of it. But it's kind of like the test scores, with the example that you gave about the women and the men. Once the confession was made and words were shaped in a positive manner, that there's equal standing, that played a role on the outcome of the test. So, and I'll further elaborate on that when we get to the end of the broadcast, as we always do, and I add some spirituality to it. But at the most basic level, the stereotype has power when it's not addressed. And I think what's interesting is that in the example of the testing, the power came from the proctors or the people giving the test, letting them know that you are equal. So there is power when we address the stereotype, somebody outside of you addressing the stereotype and letting you know that you are equal.
Thank you for that, Brandon. So I see Dwayne is on. Hey, Dwayne.
That's my dad. Hey, what's up,
Dad? Oh, okay. Dad is on. Okay, so yes. So going back to what I said about stereotypes is that it doesn't only apply to people of color, but it can also apply to white folks as well. And I mentioned the sports stereotype. So before I go into the examples of the parent-teacher conference and then going into police shootings that have currently been happening, I want to bring up a personal stereotype that I felt was placed on me. And this is in recent time, okay? So I was in the store, and Brandon, I might have shared this with you, but I was in the store, and now you know how I've been complaining about the mask, right? Like folks just not wearing the mask right and all that stuff, right? So I was in the store. This was maybe last month. I'll say last month, and I'm wearing my mask, doing the right thing, and there's a whole lot of people. Sorry to the white people that I'm about to talk about. But I saw a lot of white people not wearing the mask correctly. Now, there are some people of color not doing it as well. Put that out there. But I'm highlighting the white people that I'm getting ready to talk about. So I'm walking down the aisle, and there's this woman. Her mask is on her neck. So it's like on her neck, not above her nose, but on her neck, right? And she's just going through, and then as I'm approaching her, going the opposite direction, she lifts her mask up to cover her nose when she passes me, right? But as soon as I pass her, I turn around because I was like, let me see what her actions are after I pass her. Once I pass her, she pulled her mask back down. So the stereotype that I'm getting there is that due to people of color having higher numbers of having COVID, and being exposed to the virus seemingly a whole lot more, I think the stereotype was, oh, there's a black person, let me pull my mask up. Then, but as soon as they walked past, she pulled that mask back down and went on shopping again. So what's the difference with passing by me and I have my mask on, and you're passing by your fellow white folks and they have their mask off? What's the difference there? So I feel like the stereotype was like, oh, he may have it, but I'm actually covered. I'm actually wearing my mask.
Right.
So moving on to the way of speaking. And
well, hold on. Can you elaborate?
I like it. I know you had to.
Can you elaborate on what did you feel about the stereotype, or what did you think the stereotype was? And maybe you did that, but could you just do that one more time?
So the stereotype that I felt was, you're in a store, so the whole time you don't have the mask on. You have the mask on your chin and all that stuff. I passed by people without their mask on. They went on about their business. But just so happened when I passed you, you lift your mask up. So for me, my perception of that is you pulled it up to pass by me, but then pulled it back down throughout people that had their mask on or off. Because I turned around to look, and I'm like, you pulled your mask back down, but then you just passed by somebody else that had their mask off. I had mine on. You had yours off. So my perception is, why would you do that? Shay said put hers on because she could have thought that you took it seriously more than the other folks without masks. Now that is a very good perspective, because she could have easily just been considering the fact that I had mine on. But I don't, because there's no way that someone would, for me looking at it, you have your mask off the whole entire time you're in the store, but just so when I pass you, pull it up. But you're passing by people with their mask on and off throughout the whole store. Because I did pass by her again and she did the same thing. So it wasn't just one time I passed by her. I passed by her a second time as well. So that perspective is good because that could have easily been it, but I strongly don't believe that. Your dad says, has history engraved thoughts of who we are? Yes. And that ties into what I mentioned in the story about Dr. Claude Steele of him being Black. And I mean, even from age 7, him realizing that he can't go to the pool unless it's Wednesday. It goes back to that. It goes back to that. So I feel that history has engraved thoughts of who we are. I definitely believe that. I believe that as time has went on, is it as overt? In some cases, no. In some cases, yes. But yes, I do believe that the history, I mean, that's history for Dr. Steele to even be alive and talking about how he literally can't go to the pool unless it's Wednesday in that location, and then jumping forward to being called the N-word when he was trying to apply for that caddy position. So yes, I do believe that history has engraved those thoughts of who we are. I do believe that.
Yeah, yes, and I think that what plays a role here too is the reality that it is my perception that we don't tell the truth about history a lot. And I have examples from friends who have school-age children who are learning about history, learning about American history. And to give one example, you know, they always seem to school systems, or there's books that book companies have produced, which make slavery out to be something way less sinister than it actually was in America. And they gloss over these things. So I think that a lot of times is what's allowing these stereotypes to continue to fester, because we're not telling the truth about history so we can move on from it. Like, we can't heal from it until we tell the truth about it and shape the narrative on the true history of America and our sins, so we can move forward.
Your dad just said, how can we change perceptions? I'm gonna get there. Brandon's father, Dwayne. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. So yeah. So, and then I want to bring up the other stereotype for me in reference to the way of speaking. So I think I mentioned this to you, Brandon. I may have told you the story offline about the stereotype of Black people not speaking articulate and not having a very articulate voice. There was a stereotype placed on me based on how I spoke, and being that I guess the way that I speak is proper. I was told many years ago at a change of responsibility ceremony I was narrating. I was the master of ceremonies. That this officer came up to me and said, "Oh, I didn't know. I can't even believe your kind spoke that way. I didn't even know your kind spoke that way." He came up to me and said, "I really spoke well during the." This is in 2008, so this ain't like it's like forever ago. This is 2008. Okay. It was a white officer that came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, you spoke so well. I didn't know your kind spoke that way." Excuse me? What do you mean by that? So and I mean that bleeds into being racist, obviously. But I'm just saying his own stereotype of placing Black people in a box that we speak a certain way, like we can't speak with an articulate voice and be clear and concise with our words. That was really eye-opening for me. And I'm like, dang, for even in 2008, I'm experiencing someone look at me and expect me to speak a certain way. And it even kind of goes into offline. I talked to you about the one star that I know. I'm not going to say his name.
Yes.
The
one-star general.
The one-star general. Okay. The one-star general that treated me differently because of maybe how I speak. But if someone is a little rough around the edges, he treats them very differently and does not give them the same respect he gives me. So even within the Black community, there could be that as well. So it's not targeting just white people, but I feel that there is some of that going on in the Black community as well.
Yes.
So I'm almost done. So I want to talk about the parent-teacher conference example real quick. So when the teacher is white, so you have a white teacher and then you have an African-American couple bringing their kid to the school, right, for a conference.
Mm-hmm.
So when the teacher is white, the African-American couple will have fear that that teacher will see their child differently because of the stereotypes they feel the teacher may have. So if you think about the way that Black folks are gonna automatically assume, like, oh Lord, your teacher white. Oh Lord, I hope that they treat my child with the same respect and same way as the white students, because I do not need no problems. I don't need no racist teacher teaching my child.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what's placed. That's what the African American couple. That's their fear. But on the white teacher side, they can feel pressure and fear that anything they say will come off as racist, even though they are just trying to provide constructive criticism about their child.
Right.
So I'm not saying that each time a white teacher says something that is not rooted in racism,
Mm-hmm.
but there could literally be teachers out there that are just saying, hey, all of my students are treated the same. I don't treat any student any differently. All I'm doing is just trying to provide ways to help your child advance. Your dad says, remember that this debate goes back to the late 1800s. Du Bois and Washington addressed this point. Okay, so we readdressing stuff. Okay,
Hey.
I'll take that. So,
Changing the culture.
Okay. So stereotype threats are on both sides. So the African American community feels that anything they do is seen as aggressive and that they can get shot in their car on the street. And then police are dealing with stereotypes of their own and only be seen as an oppressive force and that they are inherently racist. So on both sides, you have stereotypes that are placed on African Americans, and then you have stereotypes that are placed on police officers as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Steele stated that we think that he stated we think that we are past our past, but the past isn't even past. I don't know if you understand his statement. He stated that we think that we are past our past,
Okay.
but the past isn't even past. It is still with us. It is still with us. So Dr. Steele was asked this question. He was asked about the folks that would give him pushback on showing empathy towards police officers, because he's thinking like, shoot, how can I show empathy towards a whole police force that has literally been discriminating institutional racism against Black people? Like, how in the world? Like, what is the pushback? So this is what he stated. Now, mind you, I'm going off of what he stated. I'm just reading what he stated. He said, how can we move forward? It is by showing empathy with one another, having a meaningful conversation with one another about the stereotype threats that exist on both sides of the aisle. Both sides. So what he said by that is train the police so that they understand the terrible circumstances of the underprivileged areas, the destabilization of family life, the poor access to healthcare and food. And if the police have a sense of what they are dealing with, if they know, and that's by having that empathy, then, and if those communities with those underprivileged communities understand what the police are dealing with, there can be a way to being empathic and on both sides. So having that conversation, that meaningful, and I'm going to also say uncomfortable conversation. It's going to be uncomfortable. And I feel that is really the true way. Are we going to get there? I don't think anytime soon. And not trying to be negative Nancy, but I don't really see us getting there in this point in time. I hope that in my lifetime that we can, but I don't know. I really don't know. We will just have to wait and see. But yes, but what Dr. Steele said does make a lot of sense. There needs to be a meaningful conversation, and I'm adding uncomfortable conversation about the stereotype threats that exist on both sides. And until both sides of the aisle see that, then that's where the empathy will take place.
Mm.
So other than that, that is all I have on stereotype threats. And Brandon, I know that you're going to do your thing and provide a spiritual side
Mm-hmm.
to this topic. So
Yeah.
the floor is yours, friend.
Well, I mean, thank you, Andre. Amazing as always. The academic, I looked at a little bit of Claude Steele, because just to give y'all a refresher on how we actually do the show, we don't share notes with one another. We just share the topic and then go from there. And it seems to, I feel like, work very well. And because we talk often, Andre and I, just about every day or every other day. And with this topic, I think it's interesting. I just want to reiterate that stereotypes exist for all types of people groups. And we're seeing stereotypes play out. The latest example of this week was the unfortunate events of the young white male who was having a bad day, who went out and shot 8 Asian folks at a massage. He hunted down Asian people at certain massage places. And the reason why I'm even saying that he was having a bad day is because that's what the police officer said in connection to his actions. And that within itself carries a stereotype that these Asian massage or Asian spas are places, because it was also added that his motive was to get rid of some type of sexual addiction. That's why he went out there and did this. Now, to me, that was nothing but stereotypes, nothing but negativity. And also, it was kind of crazy to show that the police as a whole, and that's an example of how people in society support stereotypes. I think there are healthy stereotypes. There's things that a stereotype could be all the way reduced down to a certain reaction based on what you see at the most basic level. Like we probably all do it knowingly and unknowingly at times. But the issue then becomes when the stereotypes, I think when they become threats is when now you're treating someone as they're different. And doing it in a negative connotation. Because if we go all the way back to Adam and Eve, right? The creation story, the only thing that the Most High did not give Adam dominion over was Eve. He had dominion over the animals, but he did not have dominion over Eve. I think that there's unhealthy stereotypes that definitely continue on. Because within that same instance of stereotypes against Asians, there's stereotypes against women from the police officer's words and the young man's actions. That because his sex addiction, he felt that he should go and eliminate that by murdering a woman, murdering I said 8 women, but murdering multiple women rather than dealing with himself. So that he saw that the issue wasn't himself, but that the issue was someone else, and that the issue happened to be women. So, and it's interesting to me because I feel that sometimes Christianity or the church does a bad job of not uplifting women or making women less than, and using scripture to do it. And then both, if y'all didn't know, both Andre and I are gay. But when you look at marriage, biblically speaking, how, it's saying a man and a woman, right? It's talking about husbands submit to your wives. But really people gloss over, and a lot of times in church, they gloss over the simple fact that you're supposed to submit to one another. It's about submitting to one another, not that the wife submits to the husband because she's lesser than, but they submit to one another. And Andre, you can go ahead and read the comment.
Yes, I want to read the comment from your dad. So, with respect to language, the way we speak, how do we communicate that Blacks are not a monolith, not unique to America? This issue was embedded in the argument between Paul and Peter as they address the differences between North and South Galatia. Ooh, that's okay. Your daddy is coming through with these questions.
Hey, he PhD level. I don't know if I'm ready yet. I don't know if I'm ready.
Ooh. I mean, I'm gonna try to answer this in the best way that I can. So you said, how do we communicate that Blacks are not a monolith, not unique to America? I think the best way I can answer that question, the best way that I can, because PhD level, I ain't got no PhD.
And you master's level, go ahead.
I mean, I'm master's level, I'm trying, I'm up there a little bit. I think that I believe that. I want to see if your dad is going to understand this. I believe that I kind of been saying this before in reference to another topic, but white people emphasizing that we are the same and that we are not different, but based on the color of our skin, we're automatically viewed as less than, based upon us just being people of color. And I'm not even just talking about Black people. I'm talking about, all minorities, but really specifically with Black people, because he said Blacks. But I feel that may not happen just due to what, I hate to say this, but this is going to sound so controversial what I'm getting ready to say, but I feel that it's in the DNA of a white person to not really see us as equal, even though, now mind you, there are some within the white community that go against the grain, go against what they are innately what they feel within themselves. They go against it because of them having empathy. So I think that if they have the empathy to understand what the Black struggle is, but at the same time see that we are the same, I think that's what causes that's one of the first steps to us being looked at as the same. I hope that answered it a little bit.
I got something after that next comment.
Language is not always an indicator of intellect. Okay. Yeah, I've met intelligent brothers who are not always well spoken. And that kind of goes back to what my situation was with the general, is that just because I may have an articulate speaking voice doesn't make me any better than someone that may be shy, or someone that being not well spoken doesn't mean that they are not smart.
Right.
And that's the part that made me upset about the general that I know who's Black, that treated me differently because the way I speak was the way that he liked, versus someone that I say rough around the edges, not to target them, but someone who appears to be a rough around the edges, they're looked at as less than smart. Honey, a lot of them have master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, or have double majors and stuff, but the way that they speak may not make them appear that way. So,
Moses and Aaron, right? Hey, Moses said he was an eloquent speech. We're going to take your brother Aaron. He'll speak for you. I think when it comes to the language that we speak, I think I would push back a little bit on you, Andre, when you say it's put in the DNA of white folks. I think it's more so in the DNA of America, and I think it's indoctrinated into white people. And let me quote Jane Elliott. I'm not sure if she's PhD.
That's really what I meant. I really meant Americans. Let me not, because I don't want to put all white people in the same box. I'll say America.
But I think it exists. I think it exists in Europe too, from colonization and all that stuff. But Jane Elliott said it this way about America. She said, if you're white and you grew up in America and you've been educated in America, she said it's a miracle if you're not racist. So I think The reason why we're still having
DNA.
yeah. So I think
That's
the
why I said
reason,
that.
and it makes sense. I think the reason why we're still having this conversation now, why this exists, you know, even with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, you know, on the talk, you know, with Sharon Osbourne, she was like, "Oh, Meghan Markle doesn't look black," you know, in 2018. And then in 2021, all this stuff about Meghan Markle, you know, and basically Piers Morgan saying that she's a liar and that the royal family is not racist. And then comedian Godfrey, I love that dude. He's so hilarious. Who said that Sharon is at she's at the what do you say? The headquarters of racism, where it all started. So you know, for the royal family to not be racist, I'm not sure if they are. I never met them. But to say that it's the headquarters of racism, I mean, colonialization. The reason why there's a royal family. Okay, need I say more? But I think one thing we all can do from here, without having, you know, an in-depth knowledge, without even looking at history, if people would just open their eyes and look at what's currently going on and make a decision to be different, you know, make a decision not to do, because I feel like, you know, I try to empathize with white folks as well. Some of my white friends, I'm like, I can imagine what it would be like to be white and to have other white people say things to you that they think you would accept just because y'all on the same team, just because y'all both white. And my friends have told me some examples of those things. I think it's time for everybody to be, how we change the narrative is everybody has to get involved in politics, because politics affects all of us. You pay taxes, right? If you pay taxes, then you're involved in politics. And politics is war, and politics is dirty. But you can have righteous political beliefs. Like I myself can be pro-life, but do I think that should be the legislation? That's when it becomes a different story. Like you and your Malcolm X said it like this. He said, when he was talking about being a black nationalist, he was like, the beauty of being a black nationalist is that everyone can join this, no matter what your political leanings are, no matter what your religion is, no matter what. Because if you believe in the empowerment of the black community, then you can be a black nationalist. He was like, as for me, I'm a Muslim. But that relationship is between me and Allah. It's between me and my God. And I'm leaving that at home. And I think that's what, in essence, we have to do in order to break these stereotype threats, is leave our personal, the way that I should conduct my life is the way that I should conduct my life. It doesn't mean that it's the way that you should conduct your life. I have no dominion over the way you conduct your life, Andre. We're great friends. We best friends, but I have no dominion over the way that you conduct your life. Yeah. And I think that accepting that and acknowledging that, and using my voice when there's something that I may disagree with you on, using it in such a way where I'm still respecting that, is how we empathize with one another and we come together in a manner that's healing. You know, because some of us are strong enough to speak out and be against the stereotype threats. Like I can talk about one even in the Army. Black soldiers are lazy. That's not just in the Army, but that stereotype exists. And I've heard it from white master sergeants. I've heard it from different people. And I have struggled with not matching the description. And I work harder. And my dad, Dwayne Priester, has great conversations with me growing up. But he just told me, like, hey, you kind of need to get over it. Because even if the stereotype threat doesn't change, like, you still got a mission to do. The Most High still has put his anointing on you. You still have a purpose. Even if the stereotype threats don't change, you still owe it to yourself to be the man or the woman that the Most High created you to be. You can still flourish. You can still be successful. And just know that if you are a person like me and you have been anointed to change cultures, and you're sent to places where the culture ain't right, and you have that oomph, you have that boldness, I call it sauce. If you have the sauce in which you know you can create change, then it's your responsibility at that point. That's how I feel. It's my responsibility when I go places. And now I no longer, and I think part of overcoming stereotype threats is accepting yourself, creating the image of yourself that you want to project to the public, and also overcoming and understanding what your purpose is. I now no longer resent the fact that I'm sent to places to change the culture. You know what I'm saying? I used to. I'd be like, why Andre got it so easy? Why, you know, other Black folks that I know in the military have not had it as hard as I have. But then I had to learn something. Like, we're all equipped differently. We all have different purposes, and we all, when our purposes are being fulfilled, we're all playing our roles. Now we're more successful. Because I would argue, going back to all the way to Claude Steele's example of the testing, you know, there's some of those women who were more qualified than men, but it wasn't until the culture was set and the words were spoken that those women rose to the occasion. They had the intelligence all along, but it wasn't until the atmosphere was set, like, hey, you are an overcomer. And guess what? You're just as smart as any man. You may have heard this, but that's contrary. So, and look, the atmosphere was set. That's who I am.
His dad is leaving. He said he loving the conversation, but it's a pathway for change.
Thanks, Dad. Thank you for showing up.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah. And he said, does this exist in our community as well? I think it very much does. Look at what the Black community glorifies, the stereotype threat. Like you ever see this that last meme about 2 Chainz getting a college degree and all that, which is definitely not true. I'm not gonna say he don't have a college degree. I can't remember, but he said, don't believe everything you hear online. But the stereotype threat, like, if you ain't playing basketball, if you're not rapping, then you ain't nobody. And also the stereotype threat, if you're Black and you got money, you know, like, we should acknowledge you, we should worship you. Or when you're Black and you're rich and you're doing something which tears down your own community, we should glorify you because, oh, you getting money though. You know what I mean? Oh, he's still getting money though. Nah, I'm not glorifying no T.I., nobody who's telling our kids and our community to trap or die, and at the same time sending their kids to private schools.
I know. Well, I don't even want to talk about T.I. right now because he ain't looking too good right now.
See, and to further like wrap up what I'm saying is, I think the thought that kept ringing in my mind is that scripture that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. And we know that though that scripture was written saying man, we could say, as a human thinks, so are they. And I think that personally, in order to overcome these stereotype threats, we have to change the narrative of self and who we are. And because if we don't, then we allow these stereotypes to have power over us and cause us not to live up to our full potential. And it's dangerous if we don't live up to our full potential, because there's people who are coming on the bridge after us. You know, there's people who are going to take our place, and we should do everything within our power to change the culture to make it easier for them, also motivate them and set that path straight. You know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to do with Vibelytical, here to uplift and edify, and here to bring you along the journey and challenge you intellectually, challenge you spiritually, because I think when we look at these stereotypes, I think it's time to go to war against them. You know, and some, I would say in my personal life, some of the stereotypes, like, they save you a little bit of money. Like, I ain't put no rims on no car no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not putting no thumping stereo system in my car no more. Sometimes, you know, rejecting the stereotypes can save your life. I'm just saying. I match the description. That's what the greatest fear that I've had since a child was matching the description. And it's funny because comedians have also highlighted it. Like, Police be like, I'm looking for a black man between 5'5" and 6'3", 150 pounds. You know, like
Right.
that could be anybody. And so for me personally, I'm like, I'm not putting no rims on no car anymore. And some people might look at that like, well, dang, you can't even be who you are. Or you can't even do certain things because of your skin color. I look at it like, okay, I'm saving money. And then second of all, I don't need to draw any unnecessary attention. I just buy me a nice car that come with nice rims on it already without having to go and buy, you know, some other rims that are going to attract attention to myself, which could possibly get stolen or cause the police to pull me over. Like when I had a 2005 Chrysler 300 on 24-inch rims and my car matched the description of an armed robbery. And it was literally like the set it off scene where helicopters, 7 cop cars, and they drove my car off the 60 freeway ramp in Arizona. It was a horrible experience. And if it happened more recently, I'm not sure if I would have been alive if it happened more recently. But I mean, it was like, hey, turn off the vehicle with your right hand, open the door with your left hand, take your keys out, drop your keys, put your hands on the back of your head, turn around, lift up your shirt, turn around, walk backwards, get down on your knees. I mean, it was all of that. And so, you know, I think that some of these stereotypes, we just should not match them because guess what? Like you said, Andre, some of it might not change. So
that's an unfortunate reality.
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah. But I mean, this was a great show. My dad showed up.
Yeah.
Brought some great comments. You know, I am so grateful that I have a friend like Andre to do this with. I have wanted to do this for a long time, and we're gonna continue to bring you some great information. And thank you to Claude Steele for his research and his, you know, outspokenness on this issue of stereotype threats, because it is a powerful thing. It really is.
And then I think in this time with him covering it, just made it like the perfect timing. Mind you, this interview that I looked at was done only like 3 weeks ago, so it's actually pretty fresh. Because I told Brandon offline, I said I have a few interviews and stuff in my vault that are going to be in future episodes that I'm going to cover. So this one was fairly recent because I wanted to jump on this one first, but there's a few others that I have that are in the vault that, depending on the you know where the spirit leads me, I will talk about those things in the future episodes, depending on the vibe of the show and the vibe of the show and the vibe of, you know, the world that we're in right now. So.
Right. Yeah, and I would just highlight, you know, the goal of this show is to uplift and edify, and I think we do that through education, experience, and also bringing in the centrality. I don't even know if that's a word, but it sounds good. Of everything that we are, which is also spiritual. It's not just our politics. It's not just, you know, our education, but it's the spiritual aspect, because it's from our spiritual aspect that we literally can feel when we're living righteous or we're living foul. You know, through different symptoms. Is what we're doing and the way we think about people. Does that bring us joy, or does that bring us angst? Does that bring us pain? Does that give us a headache? You know, or does it bring us joy? And so I think you know, bringing all of this together is what Vibelytical is destined to do, and we're going to keep doing it. So
I think we can wrap up.
I think so.
You know, I think that was a good hour of conversation.
Yeah.
I'm going to echo what Brandon said. We're here to give our take on the topics that we're covering, and you know, being that we have our own Facebook page now, so we will be going live on here. So the like, comment, and share, we're gonna say that every time. Like, comment, share on Vibelytical. And we're gonna be inviting more people in. We hope that you spread the word. But yeah, we really want to take this to another level, you know, but it's all in God's timing. So, but yeah, we would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Once again, please like, comment, and share. Next week will be a very good topic as well. I'll tell Brandon what it is offline. But y'all have a wonderful day. And Brandon, do you have anything else before we go?
I don't. You know that we're praying for you all, and now since we have the Facebook page, you can send us your prayer request. You know, we'll take those before the Most High. You know, and I just want to challenge everyone. Since we talked about the stereotype threat, you know, make yourself more aware and have conversations with people who are different than you, who disagree with you on politics or whatever, and you know, maybe just go out of your way to continue to show kindness to someone, especially during the pandemic. You never know what people are going through. So just be present and be aware, because I think that's one of the best things that we can do during this time.
That is a great way to close out Stereotype Threat. So thank you for that, Brandon.
You're welcome.
And until next time, thank you so much again, and we will see you next time.
See y'all next time.